James Webb pointed its mirrors toward Europa for the very first time, and what it found should not have existed on a frozen moon trapped inside the most violent radiation environment in the solar system. Fresh carbon dioxide, concentrated salt, chemical fingerprints rising through shattered ice from somewhere deep below the surface. And the horrifying part was not simply that these chemicals were there. It was that they were new. Too new. Europa orbits inside Jupiter's immense magnetic field, a region flooded with charged particles accelerated to near relativistic speed. Radiation there is so intense that an unprotected human standing on Europa's surface would receive a lethal dose within a single day. More importantly for scientists, that radiation constantly tears molecules apart. Carbon dioxide exposed on Europa's surface should not survive for very long in geological terms. It should be destroyed, scattered, erased. And yet James Webb detected strong, unmistakable signatures of it concentrated inside a region called Terra Regio, one of Europa's famous chaos terrains, where the ice appears broken, rotated, and violently rearranged, as if something beneath the moon had tried to claw its way upward, which means the carbon dioxide cannot be ancient. It must have arrived recently. Something beneath the ice is still active. Something beneath the ice is still moving. And tonight, as the world around you slowly quiets and the darkness settles softly into the room, I want you to imagine that hidden world carefully. Imagine an ocean sealed beneath kilometers of frozen crust, an ocean containing possibly twice as much liquid water as all of Earth's oceans combined. No sunlight has touched it for billions of years. No human eye has ever seen it. The pressure down there may be so immense that it would crush every submarine humanity has ever built. And yet that unseen ocean may already possess many of the same ingredients that allowed life to emerge on the early Earth. Liquid water, carbon chemistry, salts, energy sources, geological activity, perhaps even hydrothermal vents on the seafloor. For decades, Europa existed only as a scientific possibility, a distant maybe in the search for alien biology. But after the first Webb observations, the tone inside the scientific community quietly began to change. Europa no longer appears geologically dormant. It no longer looks frozen in time. It looks dynamic, breathing, in a planetary sense, quietly exchanging chemistry between its hidden interior and the vacuum of space above. If stories like this help calm your mind at night, perhaps leave a gentle like on the video so these slow journeys through space continue reaching people searching for a little peace before sleep. Because this story is not only about astronomy, it is also about loneliness. About hidden worlds orbiting silently in darkness while entire civilizations live and disappear on Earth without ever knowing they existed. The James Webb Space Telescope was designed primarily to study the early universe using infrared light, allowing astronomers to see through cosmic dust and examine galaxies formed shortly after the Big Bang. But infrared light also reveals chemistry with extraordinary precision. Every molecule absorbs and emits light at specific wavelengths. Water leaves one signature. Carbon dioxide leaves another. Salt-rich minerals reflect infrared radiation differently than pure ice. To Webb, chemistry becomes visible. And when Webb finally turned toward Europa in 2022, scientists expected interesting results. What they did not expect was how quickly the moon would begin rewriting decades of assumptions. The telescope only observed Europa for a very short period of time, just minutes by astronomical standards, yet the spectral data returned was astonishingly clean. Inside Terra Regio, Webb confirmed large concentrations of carbon dioxide precisely where the surface ice looked youngest and most disrupted. That detail mattered enormously because if the carbon had arrived from comets or meteorites striking the surface randomly, it should have been distributed more evenly across the moon. Instead, the chemistry was localized, focused, emerging specifically from regions where Europa's icy shell appeared fractured from below. Webb also confirmed sodium chloride, ordinary table salt, concentrated in the same region. On Earth, Salt deposits like this are commonly associated with liquid water carrying dissolved minerals upward before freezing or evaporating away. Scientists now believe Europa's subsurface ocean may be communicating with the surface through these chaos terrain, slowly leaking material upward over immense spans of time. And that possibility changes everything. Because on Earth, wherever liquid water, chemistry, and stable energy sources coexist, life follows. Not occasionally, not rarely, everywhere. Microbial life exists inside Antarctic ice, beneath the ocean floor, inside volcanic rock, around hydrothermal vents where sunlight never reaches. Life on Earth is astonishingly adaptable, which raises a deeply uncomfortable possibility. If Europa possesses the same fundamental ingredients that existed on the young Earth billions of years ago, then what exactly has been happening inside that hidden ocean all this time? No serious scientist is claiming proof of alien organisms. The evidence does not support that conclusion. Not yet. But what James Webb discovered has made one thing increasingly difficult to deny. Europa no longer looks like a dead moon. And over the course of 2 nights' journey through the darkness, we are going to follow those chemical fingerprints deeper beneath the ice, into the terrifying radiation field surrounding Jupiter, into the hidden ocean itself, and eventually toward a possibility so unsettling that even scientists who study Europa professionally sometimes describe it with a single careful word: horrifying. The truly unsettling part is this. Scientists still have no direct image of Europa's ocean. No camera has ever seen it. No probe has touched it. Every conclusion humanity has reached about that hidden sea comes from indirect evidence. Tiny clues leaking upward through miles of fractured ice. And somehow, despite never seeing the ocean itself, the evidence has become so overwhelming that most planetary scientists now agree it is almost certainly there. A global ocean. Dull. Salty. Ancient. Possibly containing more liquid water than Earth itself. Which means that somewhere beneath the frozen crust of this small moon orbiting Jupiter, there may exist one of the largest habitable environments in the solar system. The story really began in the 1990s with a spacecraft called Galileo. For nearly 8 years, Galileo orbited Jupiter, repeatedly flying past its largest moons while collecting magnetic and gravitational data. Europa was not the main focus at first. In many ways, scientists expected it to be just another icy moon. Cold. Geologically dead. Relatively simple. But the measurements coming back from Galileo refused to behave normally. Every time the spacecraft passed Europa, its instruments detected strange distortions in Jupiter's magnetic field surrounding the moon. At first, researchers suspected instrument errors, but the signal kept appearing again and again. Eventually, the conclusion became unavoidable. Something inside Europa was conducting electricity. And in planetary science, there are very few materials capable of doing that on such a scale. Metal conducts electricity. Salt water conducts electricity. Ice does not. Solid rock generally does not. Which left scientists with a terrifyingly exciting possibility. Beneath Europa's frozen shell, there had to be a massive ocean of salty liquid water, responding to Jupiter's magnetic field, like an enormous buried conductor. The implications of that discovery were enormous, because Europa itself is actually relatively small, slightly smaller than Earth's moon. From the outside, it does not look extraordinary. Its surface appears pale, smooth, scarred by reddish cracks stretching for thousands of kilometers across the ice. But beneath the quiet exterior may lie an ocean estimated to be somewhere between 60 and 150 kilometers deep depending on the model used. Earth's oceans, by comparison, average only around 3-7 kilometers deep. Let that scale settle gently into your mind for a moment tonight. The deepest point in Earth's oceans, the Mariana Trench, reaches nearly 11 kilometers downward. On Europa, that depth might barely scratch the upper layers of the hidden sea. If you could somehow descend through the ice shell safely, leaving behind the frozen surface and entering the ocean below, You would not reach the seafloor for dozens upon dozens of kilometers. There would be no sunlight anywhere. No blue glow filtering down from above like Earth's oceans. Europa's ice shell is far too thick for light to penetrate. The water below exists in absolute darkness. A darkness uninterrupted for perhaps 4 billion years. And yet scientists increasingly believe the ocean may still contain energy. Enough energy, potentially, to support biology. Europa survives because Jupiter refuses to let it rest. As Europa orbits the giant planet, Jupiter's gravity constantly squeezes and stretches the Moon through a process called tidal flexing. Imagine bending a metal paperclip back and forth repeatedly. Eventually it heats up from internal friction. Europa experiences the same effect on a planetary scale. Every orbit around Jupiter slightly deforms the Moon's interior. That continuous flexing generates heat deep inside Europa, preventing the subsurface ocean from freezing solid despite surface temperatures averaging around -160 degrees Celsius. Without Jupiter, Europa would likely be a frozen dead world. But Jupiter's immense gravity acts like a cosmic engine, continuously injecting energy into the Moon's interior. Scientists now believe some of this energy may also reach the rocky seafloor beneath the ocean, potentially driving hydrothermal activity similar to the deep-sea vents found on Earth. And those vents matter enormously, because on Earth, hydrothermal vent systems host entire ecosystems completely independent of sunlight. Strange organisms thrive there using chemistry rather than photosynthesis for energy. Giant tubworms, blind shrimp, dense bacterial colonies feeding on sulfur and minerals erupting from the crust below. When these ecosystems were discovered in 1977 near the Galapagos Rift, they fundamentally changed humanity's understanding of where life could survive. Before then, scientists assumed sunlight was essential for complex ecosystems. Hydrothermal vents proved otherwise. Life could exist in total darkness, so long as chemistry and liquid water remained available. Europa may possess both, and that realization changed the Moon forever in the eyes of astrobiologists. Because suddenly Europa was no longer just another icy satellite orbiting a gas giant. It became a possible second cradle for life itself, a completely separate biological experiment running silently beneath kilometers of ice, while human civilization rose and fell on Earth above. There is another detail that makes the situation even stranger. Europa's surface appears geologically young. Scientists estimate many regions may only be between 40 and 90 million years old. Surprisingly recent on cosmic dimescals. Very few impact craters exist there compared to older moons. Something keeps resurfacing Europa, smoothing away ancient scars. Something beneath the crust appears to be reshaping the Moon continuously. Chaos terrains like Terra Regio may form when warmer ice, or even subsurface water pushes upward, partially melting and fracturing the shell above before re-freezing into twisted blocks. In some images captured by past missions, these regions resemble broken sea ice floating on a frozen ocean. Entire slabs rotated out of alignment, as though the crust briefly detached from the layers beneath it, etched from the layers beneath it. James Webb's observations only deepened the mystery because the carbon dioxide and salts appeared concentrated precisely inside these disrupted regions. Not randomly scattered, not globally mixed, localized, as though the ocean itself had reached upward recently and left behind chemical traces before retreating again beneath the ice. Which raises an uncomfortable question scientists still cannot answer. How much exchange occurs between the surface and the ocean below? Because if oxidants generated by Jupiter's radiation at the surface slowly migrate downward through fractures in the ice, they could provide additional chemical energy for life in the ocean beneath. In other words, Europa may not simply contain water. It may contain a complete energy cycle capable of sustaining biology over immense dimescals. And if that is true, then somewhere tonight beneath that frozen shell orbiting Jupiter, hidden from sunlight forever, chemistry may still be evolving in silence. There is a reason scientists once believed Europa had almost no chance of supporting life. A reason so severe that even today, it remains one of the greatest obstacles in understanding the Moon. Europa lives inside a radiation field so violent that it resembles something closer to a planetary death trap than a habitable world. If you stood on the Moon's frozen surface without protection, Jupiter's radiation would begin damaging your cells almost immediately. Within hours, the exposure would likely become fatal. But strangely, the same radiation that destroys may also be feeding the hidden ocean below. Jupiter is not merely large. It is enormous beyond ordinary intuition. More than 300 Earths could fit inside it. Its magnetic field is the strongest planetary magnetic field in the solar system, extending millions of kilometers into space like an invisible storm. Charged particles from the Sun become trapped inside this magnetic field and accelerated to extraordinary energies, forming immense radiation belts around the planet. Europa orbits directly inside those belts. Every second, the Moon's surface is bombarded by high-energy electrons, protons, and ions moving at incredible speeds. These particles slam into the ice shell continuously, breaking molecules apart through a process called radiolysis. Water molecules split into hydrogen and oxygen. Carbon compounds are shredded. Chemical bonds collapse under the assault. At first glance, this environment seems completely hostile to biology. And on the surface, it probably is. Any exposed organic molecules would be damaged rapidly. Microbial life existing openly on Europa's surface would likely struggle to survive long under such relentless radiation. But here is where the situation becomes strangely beautiful. Because radiation does not only destroy chemistry, sometimes it creates new chemistry as well. When energetic particles strike Europa's water ice, they produce oxidants such as molecular oxygen and hydrogen peroxide. These substances are chemically reactive, meaning they store energy that living organisms can potentially use. On Earth, oxygen drives complex metabolism. Animals survive because oxygen accepts electrons during cellular respiration, releasing energy inside our cells. Europa's surface may be manufacturing oxidants continuously through radiation, which raises an extraordinary possibility. If fractures and chaos terrains allow these oxidants to migrate downward into the subsurface ocean over time, Europa's hidden sea may possess an energy source generated by Jupiter itself. In other words, Jupiter's radiation may simultaneously sterilize the surface while feeding the ocean below. Scientists now suspect this surface-to-ocean transport could be critically important. Models suggest oxidants produced on the ice shell may slowly move downward through geological recycling processes, eventually reaching the water beneath. Combined with reducing chemicals potentially released by hydrothermal vents on the seafloor, this would create a chemical disequilibrium capable of supporting metabolism. Life, fundamentally, feeds on imbalance, and Europa may possess exactly the kind of imbalance biology requires. The irony is difficult to ignore. The very force that makes Europa appear terrifying may also help make it habitable. Imagine the Moon tonight, orbiting silently through Jupiter's radiation belts. Above the ice, invisible storms of charged particles rage endlessly. Molecules are shattered apart by energetic impact. Oxygen accumulates in the frozen crust. Hydrogen escapes slowly into space. And far below, beneath kilometers of darkness and pressure, the ocean waits. Quiet, hidden, potentially collecting chemical energy delivered from the tortured shell above. Some scientists compare Europa to a giant battery slowly charging itself over billions of years. And if that is true, then the Moon may possess not just water and chemistry, but sustained usable energy on planetary temescals. That changes everything. Because one of the great questions in astrobiology is not merely whether water exists elsewhere. Water alone is not enough. The deeper question is whether alien environments possess stable energy flows capable of supporting metabolism over immense periods of time. Europa increasingly appears to satisfy that requirement, which is why so many researchers became deeply unsettled after Webb's discoveries. The fresh carbon dioxide and salts suggested active communication between the ocean and the surface. The radiation environment suggested oxidants are constantly being generated above. And together, those facts imply Europa may have maintained a chemically dynamic system for billions of years, long enough for biology to potentially emerge, long enough for evolution to potentially begin experimenting. And the horrifying truth is that if life ever started in Europa's ocean, the ice shell above may have protected it extraordinarily well. Earth's surface has suffered asteroid impacts, volcanic catastrophes, climate collapses, mass extinctions. But Europa's ocean has remained sealed away beneath ice for almost the entire history of the solar system. Stable, dome, isolated, a hidden world untouched by sunlight and protected from cosmic disasters by kilometers of frozen armor. Which means that if biology exists down there tonight, it may have evolved in complete isolation for over 4 billion years. An entirely separate biological history unfolding silently beneath the ice, while Earth developed forests, oceans, civilizations, and eventually telescopes capable of noticing it. And we are only beginning to understand how strange that hidden world may truly be. The place that frightened scientists most was not the ocean itself. It was the surface. Specifically, the places where the surface looked broken open. From orbit, Europa appears covered in scars. Long reddish fractures stretch across the moon for thousands of kilometers, like veins beneath pale skins. But scattered among those lines are regions far stranger than ordinary cracks. Vast disrupted landscapes where the ice looks shattered into enormous drifting plates, twisted out of alignment and frozen again in chaotic patterns. Scientists call these regions chaos terrains. And after James Webb examined them closely, many researchers began to suspect they are windows into the ocean below. Terra Regio became the center of attention almost immediately. This particular chaos terrain lies near Europa's equator and spans hundreds of kilometers across the surface. Seen from orbit, it resembles broken polar sea ice on Earth after a violent storm. Huge slabs appear rotated and displaced as though the crust partially melted, floated apart, then froze again. Some blocks are tilted at odd angles. Others appear to have sunk slightly into softer material beneath them. The landscape looks unstable, almost wounded. Planetary geologists have debated for decades exactly how these terrains form. One leading theory suggests warm ice or liquid water from below rises upward through the shell, weakening the crust until the upper layers fracture and drift like icebergs before freezing into place. Another theory proposes pockets of water trapped inside the shell itself temporarily melt the surrounding ice from within. Either way, chaos terrain strongly suggests Europa's shell is not static. It is active, dynamic, constantly reshaped by forces beneath the surface. Webb's observations changed the conversation because the chemistry detected was not distributed randomly across Europa. Carbon dioxide appeared concentrated specifically inside Terra Regio. So did sodium chloride. The signals faded outside the disrupted terrain into older surrounding ice. That detail became incredibly important. If the carbon dioxide came primarily from comets striking Europa over time, scientists would expect a more uniform distribution across the surface. Instead, the chemicals were localized exactly where the ice appeared geologically disturbed. It looked less like contamination from space and more like leakage from below. Samantha Trumbo, one of the researchers involved in analyzing Webb's data, explained that the carbon most likely originated from Europa's internal ocean rather than external impacts. That conclusion carried enormous implications because carbon is one of the essential building blocks for life as we know it. Without carbon chemistry, biology becomes extraordinarily difficult. Webb essentially confirmed that Europa's ocean is not merely water. It is chemically rich water, water interacting with minerals, salts, and carbon compounds over immense periods of time. And perhaps the strangest part was how fresh the chemistry appeared. Europa's surface radiation environment should rapidly destroy exposed carbon dioxide. Yet Webb detected strong signals inside Terra Regio, meaning the material likely reached the surface relatively recently in geological terms. Scientists are careful with language, but some privately described the data as deeply unsettling, because Europa no longer looked sealed shut. It looked like the ocean was still communicating with the surface today. Imagine standing there tonight on the edge of Terra Regio. Above you hangs Jupiter, enormous beyond comprehension, filling much of the black sky with swirling bands of orange and cream. Beneath your feet stretches a frozen landscape of shattered plates and deep cracks descending into darkness. The ice creaks softly under unimaginable tidal stress as Jupiter's gravity slowly flexes the moon every orbit. Somewhere below, perhaps only a few kilometers down in this region, lies liquid water, salty, black, ancient. The terrifying realization scientists began confronting after Webb's observations was simple. If material from the ocean can reach the surface, then future missions may not need to drill entirely through Europa's ice shell to study the chemistry below. The moon may already be bringing samples upward naturally through these chaos terrains. Europa Clipper NAS has upcoming missions scheduled to arrive in the 2030 seconds. Is specifically designed to investigate these regions in extraordinary detail. Its instruments will map the chemistry, measure the thickness of the ice, analyze magnetic fields, and search for locations where exchange between the ocean and surface may still be occurring. Scientists hope Clipper may even detect organic molecules or plume activity if such material exists. But even before Clipper arrives, Webb has already transformed the emotional atmosphere surrounding Europa, because the chaos terrain suggests the moon is not geologically asleep. It is active right now, quietly resurfacing itself, quietly moving chemistry upward from an ocean humanity has never seen. And if those chemical pathways truly connect the surface to the sea below, then somewhere beneath Terra Regio tonight, hidden in complete darkness, an alien ocean may already be touching the edge of space. The moment scientists realized the carbon dioxide on Europa was probably coming from the ocean below, the entire meaning of the moon began to change, because carbon is not just another chemical. Carbon is the backbone of known biology. Every living organism on Earth, from deep-sea bacteria to human beings staring at the night sky, is built from carbon atoms linked together in extraordinarily complex ways. Proteins, sugars, fats, DNA itself, all of it depends on carbon chemistry. And until recently, one major question about Europa remained unresolved. Did the hidden ocean actually contain enough carbon to matter biologically? James Webb may have answered that question in a way few scientists expected. Using its near-infrared spectrograph, Webb identified concentrated carbon dioxide deposits within Terra Regio with remarkable clarity. The spectral signatures were unmistakable. Carbon dioxide absorbs infrared light at very specific wavelengths, and Webb's instruments are sensitive enough to separate those fingerprints with astonishing precision. But what truly unsettled researchers was not the detection itself. It was the location. The carbon dioxide was not evenly spread across Europa's surface. It was concentrated exactly where the chaos terrain suggested recent geological disruption. Exactly where subsurface material may have reached the exterior. This strongly implied that the carbon originated from inside Europa rather than arriving randomly from external impacts. Scientists immediately began testing alternative explanations. Could the carbon dioxide have come from comets? Possibly. Comets carry carbon-rich compounds throughout the solar system. But comet impacts should leave more random distributions. Could radiation processes on the surface manufacture carbon dioxide artificially? To some extent, yes. Radiation chemistry can create simple molecules under the right conditions. But again, the chemistry should not appear sharply localized inside one disrupted region while fading elsewhere. The evidence kept pointing downward, toward the ocean, toward internal geological activity, toward a chemically active world beneath the ice, And that possibility carries enormous implications because carbon availability is one of the major limiting factors in potential extraterrestrial ecosystems. Water alone is not enough for life. Liquid oceans may exist elsewhere in the solar system, but without sufficient chemistry to support complex molecules, those oceans could remain biologically barren forever. Europa suddenly appeared different. Webb's observations suggested the hidden sea may already contain dissolved carbon compounds, interacting with rock and salt over immense periods of time. Essentially, Europa may possess the same fundamental chemical ingredients present on the early Earth before biology emerged here. The comparison to Earth's ancient oceans became difficult for scientists to ignore. Around 4 billion years ago, Earth itself was a violent, unstable world. Asteroids struck constantly. Volcanoes reshaped the surface. The atmosphere lacked oxygen. Yet somewhere inside Earth's primitive oceans, chemistry slowly became biology. Nobody knows exactly how it happened. The transition from non-living molecules to self-replicating organisms remains one of science's deepest mystery. But whatever process started life on Earth required liquid water, carbon chemistry, stable energy sources, and enough time for complexity to emerge. Europa increasingly appears to possess all four. Tonight, while you rest safely beneath the soft gravity and warm atmosphere of Earth, there may exist another ocean elsewhere in our solar system where carbon chemistry has been evolving independently for billions of years beneath layers of years. Frozen darkness. And perhaps the strangest part is that Europa's ocean may actually be older than Earth's modern surface ecosystems. Earth constantly renews itself through plate tectonics, erosion, and biological recycling. Entire oceans disappear and reform over geological temescals. But Europa's hidden sea has remained sealed beneath ice almost continuously for much of solar system history. Stable, isolated, unseen. Scientists now suspect that if life ever emerged there, it may have followed an evolutionary path completely separate from Earth's biology. Different pressures, different chemistry, different solutions to survival. And because the ocean remains hidden beneath kilometers of ice, nothing from that world has ever interacted directly with ours. Two biospheres could theoretically exist in the same solar system without ever touching each other. The idea sounds almost philosophical. Two separate experiments in life orbiting the same star, one beneath sunlight, one beneath ice. And James Webb may have just detected the first chemical whispers escaping from the darker one. Researchers became especially interested in how recently the carbon dioxide appeared to reach the surface. Europa's radiation environment should gradually destroy exposed carbon compounds. Yet the signals inside Terra Regia remain stronger. That means fresh material is likely still arriving from below. Some models suggest pockets of liquid water may occasionally rise upward through fractures in the shell before re-freezing. Others propose convection within the ice slowly transports deeper chemistry toward the surface over time. Either mechanism implies movement, activity, exchange between the hidden ocean and the exterior world. Europa no longer appears chemically isolated. It appears connected, breathing slowly through fractures in the ice. And once scientists began considering that possibility seriously, they started asking a much more frightening question. If material from the ocean is reaching the surface today, then what exactly is riding upward with it? Far beneath Europa's ice shell, below the black ocean where no sunlight has ever penetrated, there may exist a rocky seafloor covered in hydrothermal vents. And if those vents are truly there, then Europa becomes more than merely habitable. It becomes eerily similar to the environment where many scientists believe life on Earth first began. On our planet, hydrothermal vents were discovered only recently in human history. In 1970, researchers exploring the deep Pacific Ocean near the Galapagos Rift found towering mineral chimneys erupting superheated water into the surrounding darkness. Temperatures near some vents exceeded 350 degrees Celsius, Yet despite the crushing pressure and total absence of sunlight, life flourished there in astonishing abundance. Giant tubworms stretched from the seafloor like pale alien plants. Blind shrimp clustered near the vents. Thick bacterial mats skirted the rocks. Entire ecosystems survived using chemistry instead of sunlight. Before that discovery, scientists assumed nearly all complex life ultimately depended on photosynthesis. Hydrothermal vent communities shattered that assumption forever. They proved biology could survive entirely on chemical energy, released from interactions between hot rock and seawater. And that realization transformed Europa overnight from an interesting moon into one of the most important astrobiological targets in human history. Because Europa appears capable of supporting similar chemistry beneath its ocean. Jupiter's gravity continuously flexes the moon through tidal heating, generating internal warmth deep below the surface. Scientists believe this energy likely reaches Europa's rocky interior, potentially driving hydrothermal circulation where seawater interacts with heated minerals. The process may sound abstract, but its consequences are extraordinary. On Earth, hydrothermal systems release hydrogen, methane, sulfur compounds, iron, and countless dissolved minerals into the surrounding ocean. Those chemicals create energy gradients that living organisms exploit. Tiny microbes feed on the imbalance itself, harvesting energy directly from geochemistry or chemistry. Some origin of life researchers now suspect Earth's first living cells emerged in exactly such environments billions of years ago. Deep oceans provide stability. Mineral surfaces help organize complex molecules. Constant chemical flows drive reactions repeatedly over immense temescals. Europa may possess all those conditions right now beneath its ice shell. Imagine descending slowly through that hidden ocean tonight. Above you, kilometers of frozen crust block all sunlight forever. The water grows colder and heavier around you as pressure increases, beyond anything humans naturally experience. No sound exists except distant tectonic groans echoing through the ice overhead. Downward and downward you drift through absolute darkness, until eventually faint heat signatures begin appearing ahead. Then the seafloor emerges. Jagged volcanic rock. Mineral towers venting superheated fluids into the ocean. Chemical-rich plumes spreading through the black water like smoke underwater. And clustered around those vents, perhaps something alive. Not intelligent creatures drifting through alien oceans like science fiction films often imagine. More likely microbial ecosystems. Thin bacterial films coating warm rock. Tiny organisms feeding slowly on chemical disequilibrium. Life so simple, it may barely resemble what humans emotionally think of as living. Yet biologically, even a single independent microbe discovered on Europa would transform humanity forever, because it would prove life emerged at least twice inside one solar system. And if biology appeared independently both on Earth and beneath Europa's ice, then the universe may be crowded with hidden living worlds. This is why Europa frightens and fascinates scientists simultaneously. The moon sits disturbingly close to the threshold where habitability becomes habitation. Every new observation seems to remove another barrier, once thought impossible. First came evidence for a global ocean, then tidal heating, then salts, then carbon dioxide, then signs of active geological exchange between the ocean and surface. Piece by piece, Europa has become harder to dismiss. Yet there remains a deeply unsettling counterargument. What if Europa possesses all the ingredients for life, and still remains empty? That possibility would be equally profound. Because if water, carbon chemistry, geological energy, and billions of years are still insufficient to generate biology, then life itself may be far rarer than scientists currently hope. Earth might represent an extraordinary, cosmic accident rather than a natural outcome. Europa therefore represents something much larger than one moon orbiting Jupiter. It is an experiment, a second laboratory beside Earth where the universe may have attempted chemistry under similar conditions. If that experiment succeeded, we are not alone. If it failed, the silence becomes far more disturbing. And somewhere tonight beneath Europa's frozen shell, hidden beneath crushing pressure and eternal darkness, the answer may already exist waiting silently on the ocean floor. There is something deeply unsettling about realizing that an entire world may exist beneath Europa's ice, and that nothing from that world has ever seen the stars. Think about that carefully tonight. Every ocean on Earth knows the sky. Even the deepest trenches remain connected to sunlight far above through currents, weather, seasons, and the endless breathing of the planet. But Europa's ocean has lived in complete darkness for billions of years. No sunrise has ever touched it. No moonlight has ever shimmered across its surface. No living thing down there, if living things exist, has ever seen Jupiter hanging in the black sky overhead. The ocean simply exists beneath the ice, sealed away from the universe like a hidden thought trapped inside a frozen mind. And somehow, that silence may have lasted longer than multicellular life has existed on Earth. Scientists estimate Europa formed around 5 billion years ago alongside the rest of the solar system. Shortly afterward, tidal heating from Jupiter likely began melting the moon's interior beneath the surface ice, which means Europa's hidden sea may have remained liquid for almost the entire history of our cosmic neighborhood. While continents formed on Earth, while forests rose and vanished, while dinosaurs appeared and disappeared, while human civilizations learned to write and wage war and build telescopes, Europa's ocean simply waited in silence beneath kilometers of frozen crust, unchained, untouched. And now James Webb may have caught the first faint signs of that hidden world breathing upward through the ice. This is part of why the discoveries felt emotionally overwhelming, even for scientists trained to remain cautious. Europa does not merely look scientifically interesting anymore. It feels ancient in a way that is difficult for the human mind to fully process. Imagine an ocean so old that entire mountain ranges on Earth rose and eroded into dust, while its waters remained hidden in darkness. Imagine chemistry running there continuously for billions of years without interruption. Tiny reactions repeating endlessly in black water beneath impossible pressure. Molecules colliding, energy flowing through mineral vents, carbon compounds drifting through unseen currents. On Earth, life emerged astonishingly early once conditions became stable enough for oceans to exist. Geological evidence suggests microbial organisms appeared perhaps as early as 5 to 8 billion years ago. In cosmic terms, biology began almost immediately. That fact deeply unsettles astrobiologists because it suggests life may not require miraculous odds after all. Perhaps chemistry naturally becomes biology whenever the environment remains stable long enough. Europa may have been stable far longer than Earth's surface ever was. The moon's thick ice shell protects the ocean beneath from asteroid impacts, solar radiation, and extreme climate shifts. While Earth suffered repeated mass extinctions, Europa's hidden sea may have remained almost perfectly insulated from catastrophe. If life began there even once, it may have survived continuously ever since. Tonight, somewhere beneath that frozen crust, there could theoretically exist ecosystems older than the human species by millions upon millions of years, and yet they would remain entirely unaware of the universe outside their ocean. That idea carries a strange loneliness to it. Imagine evolving in total darkness forever. No stars, no horizon, no sky. If life exists in Europa's ocean, its entire reality may consist only of pressure, chemistry, warmth, cold, and the endless black water surrounding it. Such organisms would never develop astronomy because they would never know the cosmos existed. They would not know Jupiter hangs above them larger than any moon appears in Earth's sky. They would not know another ocean world called Earth circles the same sun nearby. They would not know human beings have begun listening to their hidden sea through infrared telescopes drifting 1,000,000 miles from Earth. The asymmetry is almost haunting. We may already know about them while they remain completely unable to know about us. Some scientists privately admitted that this emotional realization affected them more than the chemistry itself. Because Europa transforms the universe from an abstract place into something personal. Suddenly there may be another living world close enough to reach within a human lifetime, hidden beneath ice in our own solar system, not across impossible interstellar distances, not around distant stars, right here beside us all along. And perhaps the most horrifying possibility is not that Europa contains monsters or intelligent civilizations. The truly unsettling possibility is much quieter than that. That beneath the ice, there may simply exist tiny living cells drifting slowly through eternal darkness, surviving patiently in silence for billions of years, while the universe above remained completely unknown to them. And now, for the first time in cosmic history, another species has begun to notice they might be there. At first glance, Europa looks frozen and still, like a dead world trapped in permanent winter. But the more closely scientists study the moon, the more disturbing the truth becomes. Europa's surface is not ancient. It is young, shockingly young, which means something beneath the ice keeps rebuilding the moon over and over again. Most old worlds in the solar system carry scars everywhere. Impact craters accumulate across their surfaces for billions of years because nothing actively erases them. Our own moon is covered in such scars, preserving a violent history stretching back almost to the birth of the solar system itself. Europa should look similar. It should be heavily cratered, ancient, and geologically exhausted. But it does not. Instead, Europa appears strangely smooth. Craters exist there, but far fewer than expected. Large portions of the surface appear surprisingly fresh, as though the moon has been resurfacing itself repeatedly over immense spans of time. Scientists estimate some regions may only be tens of millions of years old. In geological terms, that is extraordinarily recent, which raises an unsettling question. What exactly keeps renewing the ice? The answer appears to lie beneath the surface. Europa's shell is not a solid block of frozen stillness. Increasing evidence suggests it behaves more like a slowly shifting skin floating atop the hidden ocean below ocean. Jupiter's gravity constantly flexes the moon during its orbit, squeezing and stretching the ice through tidal stress. Over time, fractures form. Warm ice rises upward. Surface plates crack apart and drift. Regions collapse and refreeze. The moon is slowly reshaping itself from within. James Webb's discoveries became so important because the chemistry appeared tied directly to this resurfacing process. The fresh carbon dioxide and salts were concentrated in geologically disrupted terrain, areas where the crust looked broken open recently, areas where deeper material may have approached the surface before freezing again. Europa no longer looks sealed shut. It looks restless. Imagine standing there tonight in silence while the ground beneath you slowly shifts over centuries and millennia, not violently like earthquakes on earthquakes on earthquakes. More like the gradual breathing of something enormous and ancient beneath the ice. Tiny fractures widen imperceptibly. Warm pockets soften deeper layers of crust. Chemical-rich water may occasionally rise upward through hidden channels before freezing again into pale broken plains. The moon changes so slowly that no human would ever witness the movement directly. Yet over enough time, entire landscapes rearrange themselves. Some researchers compare Europa's surface to floating sea ice on Earth's polar oceans. Huge plates drift atop liquid water below, cracking and grinding together before freezing into new positions. Images from the Galileo spacecraft showed regions where massive blocks of ice appeared rotated like puzzle pieces shifted by unseen currents underneath. And Webb's chemical observations strongly suggest those currents may still be active today. This matters enormously because geological activity implies energy, and energy means possibility. A completely frozen world eventually becomes chemically dead. Reactions slow, movement stops, complexity fades, but Europa appears dynamically alive in a geological sense. The moon still moves, still exchanges chemistry between its interior and exterior, still transforms itself beneath Jupiter's tidal grip. Some scientists now suspect the ice shell may even contain lakes trapped within it, pockets of liquid water suspended between the surface and the deeper ocean below. Radar observations from future missions like Europa Clipper may help confirm whether such structures exist. If they do, Europa's interior becomes even more complicated than previously imagined. Not a simple ocean beneath ice, but an entire layered system of moving water, shifting crust, and chemical transport pathways extending through the shell itself. Tonight, while Earth quietly turns beneath your window and human cities glow softly in the darkness, another world nearby may still be rebuilding itself beneath frozen plains no human being has ever touched. And the truly strange part is this: Europa's surface may be young precisely because the ocean below refuses to die. The hidden sea continues feeding energy upward into the shell, preventing the moon from becoming static and lifeless. In a sense, the ocean may still be shaping the face of Europa from underneath, which means every crack stretching across the moon tonight, every chaos terrain, every fractured ridge, may ultimately be the visible fingerprint of an unseen ocean moving patiently in darkness below. The strangest part about Europa is not the ice. It is the silence beneath it. Somewhere below that frozen shell, there may be an ocean that has existed for more than 4 billion years without ever seeing sunlight once. Think about that tonight. An entire world hidden in darkness since before complex life appeared on Earth. No sunrise, no sky, no stars reflected across the water. Only blackness stretching endlessly beneath kilometers of ice. Scientists believe Europa's ocean formed very early in the history of the solar system. Jupiter's gravity constantly squeezes the moon through tidal forces, generating heat deep inside its interior. That heat prevents the subsurface water from freezing solid. In other words, Europa survives because Jupiter never lets it rest. The moon is slowly flexed and stretched every orbit, like a stress ball being squeezed forever in the dark. And over billions of years, the process may have kept an entire ocean alive beneath the ice. What unsettles researchers is how stable that hidden ocean may have been. Earth's surface changes constantly. Continents shift. Asteroids strike. Ice ages come and go. Entire ecosystems vanish in mass extinctions. But Europa's ocean has remained protected beneath a thick frozen shell almost the entire time. Stable environments matter because life needs time. On Earth, biology appeared surprisingly early once liquid water existed. Some evidence suggests microbial life may have emerged less than 1 billion years after Earth formed. In cosmic terms, that is incredibly fast, which means if Europa possesses water, chemistry, and energy sources for billions of years, scientists can no longer easily dismiss the possibility that something may have happened down there too. James Webb changed the emotional weight of this discussion because the telescope confirmed fresh carbon dioxide and salts rising through disrupted terrain on the surface. The ocean no longer feels sealed away completely. It feels connected to the world above through slow geological breathing. And perhaps the most haunting thought is this: if life exists beneath Europa's ice tonight, it may have evolved in total isolation from the rest of the universe. Nothing down there would know stars exist. Nothing would know another ocean world called Earth circles, the same sun nearby. Human beings may become the first creatures in cosmic history to realize that hidden ocean is alive before the life inside it even knows we are here. Europa should look ancient, but it does not. That fact alone frightened scientists long before James Webb arrived. Most old moons in the solar system are covered in craters because nothing renews their surfaces anymore. Our moon preserved billions of years of impacts like scars frozen in time. Europa should be similar. Instead, large parts of the moon look strangely young, smoother, broken, recently reshaped. Something beneath the surface keeps rebuilding the ice. And Webb may have revealed why. Across Europa's stretch called Line AE, dark reddish cracks running for thousands of kilometers across the frozen crust. Some are wider than highways. Others cut through the surface like giant womb. Between them lie regions known as chaos terrains, places where the ice appears shattered into enormous blocks that shifted, rotated, and refroze. Terra Regia became the most important of these regions after Webb detected concentrated carbon dioxide and sodium chloride there. The chemistry appeared exactly where the ice looked geologically disturbed. That detail changed everything, because the surface chemicals were not spread evenly across the moon. They were clustered inside areas where deeper material may have pushed upward recently. Scientists now believe Europa's shell may behave less like solid rock and more like floating sea ice above a hidden ocean. Warm ice rises slowly from below. Cracks open under Jupiter's tidal stress. Surface plates drift apart and refreeze again over immense periods of time. The moon is not dead. It is slowly moving, slowly breathing. Imagine standing there tonight beneath Jupiter's enormous glow. The ground beneath your feet would seem frozen and still, yet over centuries the ice around you might quietly shift and fracture as hidden forces moved below. Somewhere far beneath their crust, black water presses upward against the shell, carrying salts, carbon compounds, and heat from the interior. James Webb's observations strongly suggest that exchange between the ocean and surface may still be happening today. And that possibility terrifies scientists for one simple reason. If chemistry from the ocean can reach the surface, then someday a spacecraft may sample it directly, which means humanity could be much closer to discovering whether Europa is alive than anyone once believed. If Europa truly contains life, then life may be far more common in the universe than humanity ever imagined. That is the realization slowly spreading through planetary science after James Webb's discovery. Because Europa is not warm. It is not friendly. It does not resemble Earth in any comforting way. Surface temperatures average around -160 degrees Celsius. Radiation storms constantly strike the ice. Sunlight at Jupiter's distance is weak and cold. By every ordinary definition, Europa should be dead. And yet the deeper scientists look, the more the moon appears strangely capable of supporting biology beneath the surface. The key may lie at the bottom of the hidden ocean. On Earth, some of the strangest ecosystems ever discovered exist near hydrothermal vents deep beneath the sea. These vents form where seawater seeps into cracks in the crust, becomes superheated by volcanic energy, and erupts back into the ocean carrying minerals and chemicals. Around those vents, entire ecosystems survive without sunlight. Tiny microbes feed directly on chemistry itself. Larger organisms survive by feeding on those microbes. Life there does not depend on the sun. It depends on energy from the planet's interior. Europa may possess similar conditions right now beneath its ice. Jupiter's tidal forces continuously flex the moon, heating its interior over billions of years. Scientists suspect this heat may drop hydrothermal activity along the rocky seafloor deep below the ocean. If that is true, then Europa possesses three of the most important ingredients for life as we know it: liquid water, chemical energy, and carbon compounds. James Webb strengthened this possibility when it detected carbon dioxide rising through the disrupted surface terrain. Carbon matters because every known living organism depends on it. The moon no longer appears chemically empty. It appears active, rich, dynamic. And perhaps the most unsettling thought is how long these conditions may have existed. Europa's hidden ocean could be older than most ecosystems on Earth. While continents rose and vanished here, that dark sea may have remained stable beneath the ice for billions of years. Enough time for chemistry to slowly become biology. Enough time for evolution to begin experimenting in silence. Tonight, somewhere beneath Europa's frozen shell, tiny living organisms may already drift through warm mineral plumes in complete darkness, unaware that another species across the void has finally begun noticing the chemical traces they leave behind. The terrifying thing about James Webb's observations is not simply what the telescope found. It is what the discoveries imply. Because Europa's surface should erase chemical evidence quickly. Jupiter's radiation destroys exposed molecules constantly. Carbon dioxide should not survive there for very long moon. Yet Webb detected strong concentrations of it inside Terra Regio, one of the moon's broken chaos terrains, which means the material must be fresh, recently delivered from below. Scientists became deeply interested in this detail because it suggests Europa's hidden ocean may still be interacting with the surface today. Not millions of years ago. No, the moon no longer appears frozen in geological silence. It appears active beneath the ice. Webb's instruments work by analyzing infrared light, allowing scientists to identify specific molecules through their spectral fingerprints. Water, salt, carbon dioxide, each absorbs light differently. And when Webb scanned Europa, the telescope found carbon dioxide concentrated precisely where the surface looked fractured and disrupted. That was the moment the moon stopped feeling theoretical. Before Webb, Europa was promising. After Webb, Europa became difficult to ignore. Because if ocean material is still rising upward through the shell, then the hidden sea is not isolated. It is communicating, slowly leaking its chemistry toward space. Some scientists compared the discovery to finding warm breath escaping through cracks beneath a locked door. You still cannot see what is inside the room, but suddenly you know something active exists beyond the barrier. Europa's chaos terrains may be exactly that. Places where the ocean briefly touches the outer world before freezing again beneath the radiation-blasted surface. Tonight, imagine the moon drifting silently around Jupiter, while deep below the crust, unseen currents move through black water, older than human civilization itself. Somewhere beneath Terra Regio, salts and carbon compounds may still rise upward through fractures in the shell, carrying traces of the ocean toward the surface where James Webb and detect them from nearly 600 million kilometers away. And perhaps the strangest part is this. Humanity may have already begun detecting the chemistry of an alien ocean long before physically reaching it. The telescope did not see creatures. It did not see cities or signals. It saw something quieter than that. Evidence that the ocean beneath Europa is still alive in a geological sense. Still moving. Still exchanging chemistry with the universe above. And for many scientists, that realization felt less like a discovery, and more like the first distant knock from a hidden world beneath the ice. The deeper scientists study Europa, the more impossible its ocean begins to feel. Not because it cannot exist, but because of how enormous it may truly be. Most people imagine Europa as a frozen moon covered in ice. But the ice itself may only be the surface skin of something far larger underneath. Beneath that shell could lie an ocean more than 100 kilometers deep in some regions. Earth's oceans, by comparison, average less than 4 kilometers deep. Europa's hidden sea may contain more liquid water than all oceans on Earth combined, and yet no human being has ever seen it directly. Imagine descending into that darkness tonight. Kilometer after kilometer beneath the frozen crust. The pressure increases constantly as black water surrounds you from every direction. No sunlight exists there. No sound except distant tectonic groans traveling through ice and rock. The deeper you travel, the stranger the environment becomes. Scientists estimate the pressure at Europa's seafloor may be thousands of times greater than the pressure humans experience at sea level on Earth. Any life existing there would evolve under conditions almost impossible for the human mind to imagine. And yet life on Earth has repeatedly shown an astonishing ability to survive pressure once thought impossible. Microbes thrive deep beneath Earth's crust. Strange organisms survive in trenches where the weight of the ocean above would instantly destroy ordinary life. Biology adapts. That is what unsettles researchers about Europa. Every time scientists declare an environment too extreme for life, Earth quietly proves them wrong somewhere. James Webb's discovery of fresh carbon compounds only deepened this discomfort. Because now Europa no longer appears chemically barren. The hidden ocean may contain carbon, salts, liquid water, and long-term energy sources all interacting beneath the ice. In other words, Europa may not simply be an ocean. It may be an entire living environment trapped beneath frozen darkness. And perhaps the strangest thought is this. While humanity worries about the stars above us, another world may already exist below the ice, nearby ice, nearby ice, nearby ice, near, carrying on in silence beneath crushing pressure no sunlight has touched for billions of years. For decades, scientists described Europa as a possible ocean world. But after James Webb scanned the moon, the language quietly began changing. Europa no longer looks dormant. It looks active. That distinction matters enormously. A dormant world is frozen in time. An active world is still evolving. Webb detected fresh carbon dioxide concentrated inside Terra Regio, one of Europa's fractured chaos terrains. Radiation on the moon's surface should destroy exposed carbon compounds relatively quickly on geological temescals, which means the material detected by Webb cannot be ancient. Something below the surface is still replenishing it. Something beneath the ice is still moving chemistry upward today. Scientists believe Europa's shell may slowly crack, shift, and recycle itself under Jupiter's tidal stress. Warm ice rises. Surface plates fracture apart. Salty water or slushy material may occasionally push upward before freezing again. Over immense temescals, the moon behaves almost like a living system breathing through frozen lungs. The comparison may sound poetic, but geologically it is surprisingly accurate. Europa appears to exchange material between its ocean and surface continuously. And wherever chemistry flows, possibilities follow. This is why NASA's Europa Clipper mission has become so important. Scheduled to arrive in the 2030 seconds, the spacecraft will perform dozens of close flybys, searching for signs of subsurface activity. Radar instruments will attempt to map the ice shell. Spectrometers will analyze surface chemistry. Magnetometers will study the hidden ocean below. Scientists even hope to detect water plumes erupting into space if such activity exists. Because if Europa is venting material upward naturally, humanity may eventually sample the ocean without drilling through kilometers of ice. Tonight, somewhere beneath that fractured shell, black water may still move slowly through unseen channels, while Jupiter hangs enormous above the frozen plains. The ocean beneath Europa may have remained hidden for billions of years, yet James Webb has already revealed something extraordinary. The moon is not silent. It is not still. It is not dead. And that realization changes the emotional atmosphere of the solar system completely. Because suddenly, orbiting a giant planet in the cold outer darkness, there may exist another active ocean world quietly waiting beneath the ice. What frightened scientists most about James Webb's observations was how specific the chemistry appeared to be. The telescope did not simply detect random contamination scattered across Europa's surface. It found concentrated carbon dioxide and salts precisely inside regions where the ice looked broken and recently disturbed. That detail changed everything, because it suggested the chemicals were not arriving from space above. They were rising from the ocean below. Webb used infrared spectroscopy to study Europa, a technique capable of identifying molecules through the way they absorb light. Every chemical leaves behind a unique spectral fingerprint. Water looks different from carbon dioxide. Salt-rich minerals behave differently than pure ice. And when Webb examined Terra Regio, one of Europa's largest chaos terrains, the signals became impossible to ignore. Fresh carbon dioxide existed exactly where the surface appeared geologically active. Scientists immediately understood the problem. Europa's surface is constantly bombarded by intense radiation from Jupiter. Over time, counting sheep. Over time, exposed molecules should be destroyed. Carbon dioxide should slowly disappear beneath the assault of energetic particles. Yet Webb found strong concentrations still present, which means the material likely reached the surface recently. Europa no longer looked sealed shut. It looked connected to the ocean beneath. Imagine standing there tonight beneath Jupiter's enormous glow while the ice quietly shifts beneath your feet over centuries. Somewhere below, hidden currents make airy dissolved carbon compounds upward through fractures in the shell. Eventually, those materials freeze into the surface before radiation begins erasing them again. James Webb may have detected the chemical evidence during one brief moment before the traces disappeared back into silence. That realization gave many scientists an uncomfortable feeling. Because if the ocean is still communicating with the surface today, then Europa may be far more active than anyone expected. The moon is not preserving ancient chemistry like a frozen museum. It may still be transporting fresh material upward from the hidden sea below. And if salts and carbon compounds can rise through the shell, researchers quietly wonder what else might be rising with them. Europa's ocean may be one of the loneliest places in existence. Buried beneath kilometers of frozen crust, isolated from sunlight for billions of years, it exists almost completely cut off from the rest of the universe. And yet it may also be one of the most promising places for life beyond Earth. That contradiction is what makes the moon feel so haunting. On Earth, life evolved beneath open skies, changing weather, and the steady warmth of sunlight. Europa offers none of those comforts. Its ocean exists in eternal darkness under crushing pressure. No stars shine there. No sunrise has ever touched its waters. If life exists beneath the ice, it evolved without ever seeing the cosmos above. Scientists believe Europa's thick shell may protect the ocean from many external catastrophes. Asteroid impacts rarely penetrate deep enough to disturb the sea below. Radiation from Jupiter devastates the surface, but cannot easily reach the ocean itself. In some ways, Europa's hidden water may have remained more stable over billions of years than Earth's own surface environments. Stability matters because evolution requires time. On Earth, life appeared surprisingly early once liquid water became permanent. Tiny microbes emerged long before plants, animals, or complex ecosystems existed. That fact deeply influences astrobiology today. If biology begins relatively easily under stable conditions, then Europa may have had more than enough time for the process to occur independently beneath its ice. James Webb strengthened that possibility by confirming that Europa's ocean likely contains carbon-rich chemistry. Carbon is essential because every known living system depends on it. Combined with liquid water, salts, and possible hydrothermal energy from the seafloor, the moon now appears to possess many of the same ingredients once present on early Earth. Tonight, somewhere beneath that frozen shell orbiting Jupiter, chemistry may still be evolving in silence. Tiny reactions repeating endlessly through black water, older than multicellular life on Earth. And perhaps the strangest thought is this: if living organisms exist there, they may remain completely unaware that another species has finally begun listening to their hidden world from across the void. The cracks across Europa's surface are more than scars. Scientists now believe they may be pathways, thin places where the hidden ocean below slowly communicates with the frozen world above. And after James Webb detected fresh chemistry concentrated near these fractured regions, those cracks became far more unsettling. From orbit, Europa looks wounded. Long reddish lines stretch across the moon for thousands of kilometers, crossing and reconnecting like veins beneath pale ice. Some scientists believe these fractures form because Jupiter's gravity constantly flexes the moon during its orbit. The crust bends slightly under stress, then splits open over time. In certain regions, warmer material from deeper below may rise upward, partially melting the ice before re-freezing again. That process may explain the strange chaos terrains Webb focused on. Terra Regio in particular appears broken apart as though the surface briefly softened from beneath. Huge plates of ice look shifted and rotated into new positions before freezing once more. And right there, inside the disturbed terrain, Webb found carbon dioxide and salt. Fresh chemical fingerprints that should not have survived long on the surface, which means something below may still be feeding material upward. Scientists are careful not to exaggerate what this means. No telescope has seen Europa's ocean directly. No probe has touched the hidden water. But the evidence increasingly suggests the shell is not perfectly sealed. Europa may slowly exchange chemistry between the ocean and surface through fractures, warm pockets, or shifting ice layers. Imagine the moon tonight, drifting around Jupiter in silence while deep below the frozen plains, unseen water presses upward against the shell. Tiny cracks widen over centuries. Warm slush rises slowly through the darkness. Dissolved salts and carbon compounds freeze into the surface before radiation begins erasing them away again. James Webb may have caught those chemical traces during one small moment in a cycle repeating for millions of years. And perhaps the most disturbing thought is this: if the ocean can send chemistry upward through the ice, then someday humanity may send something downward in return. Most scientists speak carefully when discussing Europa. Publicly, they use cautious words like habitability, potential, and interesting chemistry. But beneath the careful language lies a quiet realization many researchers hesitate to say directly. Europa possesses too many ingredients for life to comfortably ignore anymore. Liquid water, carbon compounds, salt, long-term energy sources, geological activity, possible hydrothermal vents, stability across billions of years. Piece by piece, the barriers once thought impossible have slowly disappeared. James Webb accelerated this shift dramatically. Before Webb, Europa was promising but uncertain. After Webb detected fresh carbon dioxide connected to geologically active terrain, the moon began feeling uncomfortably alive in a chemical sense. Scientists still have no proof of biology. That remains critically important. But the environment itself now appears far more Earth-like beneath the surface than many expected decades ago. On Earth, wherever liquid water and energy coexist, life emerges with astonishing persistence. Microbes survive deep underground, beneath Antarctic ice, around volcanic vents, even inside radioactive environments once considered sterile. Biology adapts relentlessly. That fact makes Europa difficult to dismiss. Because if Earth produced life relatively quickly under suitable conditions, why would another ocean world remain completely empty for billions of years? Some researchers privately admit that the question no longer feels purely theoretical. Instead, the terrifying possibility is becoming emotional. What if another biosphere already exists nearby inside our own solar system? Not intelligent civilizations, not cities beneath the ice. Something quieter, simpler, tiny organisms drifting through black water beneath Europa's frozen shell. A second genesis completely independent from Earth. Tonight, while human beings sleep beneath warm skies and breathable air, another ancient ocean may circle Jupiter carrying life that evolved in darkness long before humanity learned astronomy existed. And perhaps the strangest part is how close that hidden world really is. Europa is not orbiting another star thousands of light years away. It is here, inside our own cosmic neighborhood, which means the greatest discovery in human history may not require crossing the galaxy at all. It may already be waiting beneath the ice of a small frozen moon silently orbiting Jupiter in the dark. Before James Webb, Europa was mostly a world of theories. Scientists suspected an ocean existed beneath the ice, but much of the discussion still depended on indirect evidence collected decades earlier by the Galileo spacecraft. Webb changed that feeling almost immediately, because for the first time, humanity was not simply imagining Europa's chemistry. We were observing it directly with extraordinary precision. Webb sees the universe differently than human eyes do. Its instruments study infrared light, allowing the telescope to identify molecules through their spectral signatures. Every chemical absorbs and reflects light in unique ways. To Webb, chemistry becomes visible. And when the telescope turned toward Europa, scientists expected interesting data. What they did not expect was how strongly the moon would appear connected to its hidden ocean. The carbon dioxide Webb detected was concentrated in Terra Regio, one of Europa's fractured chaos terrains. That detail mattered enormously. If the carbon had arrived mainly from asteroid or comet impacts, it should have appeared more evenly spread across the surface. Instead, the chemistry clustered inside regions where the ice looked recently disrupted. The moon seemed to be revealing material from below. Scientists quickly realized something uncomfortable. Europa's surface chemistry was not ancient residue frozen in place. It appeared active, fresh, continuously renewed despite Jupiter's radiation slowly destroying exposed molecules over time. In other words, the hidden ocean may still be influencing the surface right now. Tonight, somewhere beneath those fractured plains, dark water may still move through unseen channels while salts and carbon compounds rise slowly upward through the shell. And from nearly 600 million kilometers away, James Webb detected the evidence. That realization transformed Europa emotionally for many researchers. The moon stopped feeling distant and theoretical. It started feeling real, alive in a geological sense, quietly breathing chemistry through cracks in the ice while orbiting Jupiter in endless darkness. And perhaps the strangest part is this. Humanity may already possess the technology to detect the fingerprints of alien oceans before ever physically touching them. Imagine floating beneath Europa's ice tonight. Above you stretches a frozen ceiling perhaps 20 kilometers thick in some regions, separating the ocean forever from sunlight and stars. No blue glow filters downward like Earth sees. No moonlight reaches the water. The darkness there would be absolute. And yet scientists increasingly believe that hidden ocean may still contain energy chemistry, a movement beneath the silence. Jupiter's gravity constantly squeezes Europa during its orbit, generating internal heat through tidal flexing. That heat likely prevents the ocean from freezing solid and may even doctor hydrothermal activity deep along the seafloor. On Earth, similar environments support entire ecosystems independent of sunlight. Tiny organisms survive by feeding directly on chemistry released from heated rock below. Europa may possess the same possibility beneath its ice. James Webb strengthened this idea by confirming fresh carbon dioxide and salts associated with active surface terrain. Carbon matters because it forms the backbone of known biology. Salts suggest prolonged interaction between water and rock. Together, they imply Europa's ocean is chemically dynamic rather than empty and sterile. Some scientists now suspect the moon may maintain a slow planetary cycle. Radiation striking the surface produces oxidants like oxygen and hydrogen peroxide. Geological processes may transport some of those chemicals downward into the ocean over time, rather than counting sheep, where they could interact with reducing chemicals rising from hydrothermal vents below. Life on Earth feeds on similar chemical imbalances constantly. Europa may possess its own version of that system hidden beneath the crust. The terrifying beauty of the moon lies in how isolated everything remains. If biology exists there, it evolved without sunlight, forests, weather, or open skies. Its entire universe would consist only of pressure, darkness, chemistry, and black water stretching endlessly beneath the ice sea. Nothing living there would know stars exist. Nothing would know another ocean world nearby has begun studying their hidden sea with giant golden mirrors drifting through space. Tonight, while Earth glows warmly beneath human cities, another ocean may remain awake beneath Europa's frozen shell, ancient and silent beneath the dark. There is something deeply humbling about Europa's timeline. Human civilization is only a few thousand years old. Recorded history barely reaches backward far enough to remember the construction of the pyramid. But Europa's ocean may have existed continuously for more than 4 billion years. While every empire on Earth rose and disappeared, that hidden sea may have remained beneath the ice in uninterrupted darkness. Stable, ancient, waiting. Scientists believe Jupiter's gravity has been heating Europa since the early solar system formed. Every orbit stretches and compresses the moon slightly, generating friction inside its interior. Over immense spans of time, that process may have kept a vast ocean liquid beneath the frozen crust. And because the ice shell protects the water below from many outside catastrophes, Europa's ocean may actually be more stable than Earth's surface environments. On Earth, asteroid impacts, climate shifts, volcanic eruptions, and mass extinctions repeatedly transformed the planet. Europa's hidden sea remains sealed away beneath kilometers of ice, almost the entire time. That stability matters because biology requires time to evolve. And Europa may have had more time than almost anywhere else nearby. James Webb's discovery of fresh carbon dioxide made this realization even harder to ignore. The ocean beneath the ice no longer appears chemically empty. It appears active and connected to the surface through slow geological processes. Carbon compounds rise upward through fractured terrain before radiation slowly destroys them again. The moon is quietly recycling chemistry over immense temescals. Tonight, somewhere beneath their frozen crust, tiny reactions may still be repeating endlessly in the dark, just as they have for billions of years. Molecules drifting through warm mineral plumes. Salts dissolving through hidden currents. Energy flowing upward from rock below. And perhaps the strangest thought is this. If life ever emerged there long ago, it may have survived continuously from ancient cosmic history all the way into the present moment, while humanity remained completely unaware of it. Humanity is already preparing to go back. After decades of uncertainty, Europa has become too important to ignore. NASA's Europa Clipper mission, expected to reach Jupiter in the 2030 seconds, was designed specifically because scientists now believe the moon may hold answers to one of humanity's oldest questions. Are we alone? Clipper will not land on Europa. The radiation around Jupiter is too dangerous for long-term survival near the surface. Instead, the spacecraft will repeatedly fly past the moon while studying it in extraordinary detail. Radar instruments will attempt to peer through the ice shell. Spectrometers will analyze surface chemistry. Magnetometers will study the hidden ocean below. Cameras will map fractures and chaos terrains with far greater clarity than ever before. Scientists hope Clipper may confirm how thick the ice shell truly is, how the ocean interacts with the surface, and whether Europa actively releases plumes of water vapor into space. If those plumes exist, the spacecraft might fly directly through them, sampling material from the hidden ocean without drilling through kilometers of ice. That possibility feels almost unreal. Humanity may soon analyze the chemistry of an alien ocean directly. James Webb already changed how researchers emotionally view Europa. But Europa Clipper could transform the moon from a mystery into something tangible. Scientists may finally learn whether the ocean contains organic molecules, complex chemistry, or signs of active geological circulation beneath the ice. And beneath all those scientific goals lies a quieter hope few researchers say out loud. That somewhere inside the data may exist evidence that biology emerged twice in one solar system. Tonight, Europa still drifts silently around Jupiter beyond the warmth of the inner planets. No spacecraft has touched its hidden sea. No probe has descended through the darkness beneath the crust. But humanity is getting closer. For the first time in history, our species is actively building machines capable of investigating whether another living ocean may exist nearby. And somewhere beneath Europa's frozen shell, the answer may already be waiting in silence. Before Europa, many scientists believe the search for extraterrestrial life should focus mainly on planets similar to Earth, warm worlds orbiting inside the habitable zone of distant stars, places with sunlight, atmospheres, and liquid water on the surface. But Europa changed that idea forever, because the moon suggested something astonishing. A world does not need sunlight on the surface to remain potentially habitable. It only needs energy, chemistry, and liquid water somewhere beneath the darkness. That realization transformed astrobiology completely. Suddenly, frozen moons once considered dead became scientifically important. Enceladus around Saturn, Titan with its methane lakes, Ganymede and Callisto on Jupiter. Entire hidden oceans may exist throughout the solar system beneath ice shelves no telescope can fully penetrate. James Webb strengthened this revolution by confirming that Europa's chemistry appears active today. Carbon dioxide and salts concentrated in fractured terrain imply communication between the hidden ocean and the surface above. Europa is not simply preserving ancient water beneath ice. It may still be dynamically recycling chemistry through geological activity. And that possibility changes the emotional atmosphere of the universe itself. Because if oceans beneath frozen crusts can remain habitable for billions of years, then life may not require rare Earth-like conditions after all. It may emerge quietly inside hidden seas throughout the cosmos. Tonight, somewhere beneath Europa's frozen plains, black water may still move through unseen currents, while Jupiter hangs enormous above the surface. And perhaps the strangest part is realizing that humanity once overlooked worlds like this entirely. We searched for life beneath sunlight while another ocean may have existed beside us all along, hidden beneath ice in eternal darkness. But there is another possibility scientists rarely discuss publicly because it feels almost too unsettling to say aloud. What if Europa possesses everything needed for life and still remains empty? Liquid water, carbon compounds, salt, geological energy, billions of years of stability. If all these ingredients exist together beneath the ice and biology never emerged, then life itself may be extraordinarily rare in the universe. This is what quietly troubles many astrobiologists about Europa. The Moon represents a test, a second experiment beside Earth. If life appeared independently in both oceans, then biology may be common throughout the cosmos. But if Europa remains sterile despite possessing similar conditions, then Earth's biosphere may represent something incredibly unusual, perhaps even miraculous. James Webb made this tension stronger because every new observation removes another excuse. Scientists once questioned whether Europa truly contained liquid water. Evidence now strongly supports a global ocean. Then researchers questioned chemistry. Webb confirmed carbon dioxide in salts. Then came the question of geological activity. The chaos terrains and fresh surface material suggest the Moon is still active today. Piece by piece, Europa keeps becoming more habitable, which means the silence grows more uncomfortable if nothing lives there. Tonight, beneath that frozen shell, there may either be another living ecosystem hidden in darkness, or nothing at all except ancient water and chemistry endlessly circulating without purpose. And strangely, both possibilities are terrifying in different ways, because if Europa is alive, humanity is not alone. But if Europa is dead despite every favorable condition, then life itself may be far rarer than we ever dared imagine. One of the first things scientists noticed about Europa was how unnatural the surface looked. Long reddish fractures stretched across the Moon like giant scars, crossing thousands of kilometers through the frozen plains. Even from orbit, the cracks seemed unsettling, too extensive, almost like something beneath the surface had been trying to push outward for billions of years. At first, researchers did not fully understand what created those lines. But over time, the explanation became even stranger. Jupiter's gravity constantly bends Europa during its orbit. The Moon is squeezed and stretched again and again through tidal forces powerful enough to fracture the crust itself. As the ice flexes, cracks open across the surface. Some widen, some reconnect, some slowly refill with warmer material rising from deeper below before freezing again. The reddish color may come from salts and sulfur compounds exposed to radiation at the surface. And after James Webb detected concentrated chemistry inside disrupted regions like Terra Regio, many scientists began viewing these fractures differently. The lines may not simply be cracks. They may be pathways connecting the ocean below to the frozen world above. Imagine standing beside one tonight, a canyon of dark ice stretching beyond the horizon beneath Jupiter's enormous glow. Somewhere beneath your feet lies an ocean deeper than all Earth's seas combined. And slowly, over immense temescals, Chemistry from that hidden water may still rise upward through the fractures. Carbon compound. Chance. Molecules carried from darkness into the radiation-blasted surface world above. Europa suddenly feels less like a frozen moon and more like a barrier barely holding back another environment underneath. And perhaps the most unsettling part is this. Those cracks may be the closest humanity has ever come to physically touching another potentially habitable ocean world. Scientists often focus on Europa's ocean itself, but some researchers believe the most important place may actually be beneath the ocean floor. Deep below the black water likely sits a rocky interior warmed by tidal heating from Jupiter's gravity. If seawater interacts with that heated rock, Europa may contain hydrothermal systems, similar to those found in Earth's deepest oceans. And on Earth, hydrothermal vents changed humanity's understanding of life forever. Before their discovery in the 1970s, scientists assumed ecosystems depended almost entirely on sunlight. Then researchers found thriving communities living in complete darkness near volcanic vents on the seafloor. Microbes fed directly on chemical energy released from hot rock below. Entire ecosystems survived without sunlight ever reaching them. Europa may possess similar conditions tonight beneath its frozen shell. James Webb's discovery of carbon dioxide strengthened this possibility because carbon-rich chemistry is essential for known biology. Combined with liquid water and potential hydrothermal energy, the moon increasingly resembles environments where life may naturally emerge. Some origin of life theories even suggest Earth's first living cells formed near hydrothermal vents billions of years ago. If that process can happen once, scientists quietly wonder why it could not happen twice. Imagine the seafloor beneath Europa tonight. Total darkness. Towering mineral vents releasing heat into black water under crushing pressure. Tiny chemical reactions repeating endlessly across warm rock surfaces as perhaps simple organisms drifting slowly through the currents, surviving in silence beneath kilometers of ice. The terrifying beauty of Europa lies in how ordinary the chemistry may actually be. Not magical, not science fiction. Simply water, minerals, carbon, heat, and time. The same ingredients Earth once possessed before biology appeared here. And somewhere in that ancient hidden ocean, the universe may already have repeated the experiment again. For many years, one question haunted every discussion about Europa. How thick is the ice? Because the answer changes everything. If the shell is extremely thick, the hidden ocean becomes difficult to reach and largely isolated from the surface. But if parts of the crust are thinner than expected, then chemistry may move between the ocean and the exterior far more easily. Recent research suggests certain regions of Europa's ice shell may indeed be thinner and more active than scientists once believed. Chaos terrains like Terra Regio appear especially important. The fractured landscape there suggests warmer material from below may occasionally rise upward, weakening the crust before re-freezing. Some models estimate that pockets of liquid water could even exist trapped inside the shell itself, suspended between the surface and the deeper ocean. James Webb's discovery of fresh carbon dioxide inside these disrupted regions made those ideas far more serious. Because the chemistry appeared localized exactly where the ice looked geologically disturbed, Europa no longer feels sealed shut beneath an impenetrable frozen wall. It feels connected, dynamic, alive in a geological sense. Imagine the moon tonight beneath Jupiter's distant glow. Far below the surface, warm currents slowly press upward against fractured ice. Tiny pathways may open and close across centuries, while salts and carbon compounds move gradually toward the surface. Radiation destroys those materials once exposed, yet new chemistry continues appearing. Something below keeps replenishing it. And that realization quietly changed how scientists emotionally viewed Europa. The ocean beneath the ice no longer feels unreachable. It feels close, perhaps far closer than humanity once imagined. Somewhere under those frozen plains, another habitable environment, may already exist only a few kilometers beneath the crust, hidden behind one of the strangest barriers in the solar system. If life exists beneath Europa's ice, it may be the loneliest life in the universe. Think about that carefully tonight. Every organism on Earth evolved beneath open skies. Even creatures living deep underground or at the bottom of the sea remain connected to a planet filled with sunlight, weather, seasons, and stars. But Europa's ocean knows none of those things. Any living organisms down there would exist beneath eternal darkness. No sunrise has ever touched that hidden sea. No moonlight has ever crossed its surface. If biology evolved there, it did so without ever seeing the universe outside its ocean. That idea deeply unsettles some scientists because it changes how we think about intelligence, awareness, and existence itself. The biosphere could theoretically survive for billions of years while remaining completely isolated beneath ice, unaware that planets, stars, and galaxies even exist. James Webb may have already detected chemical traces from that hidden environment without anything inside the ocean realizing another species is searching for. The asymmetry feels haunting. Humanity now stares toward Europa with giant space telescopes and future missions, trying desperately to understand what may exist below. Meanwhile, if life drifts through those waters tonight, it may remain entirely unaware of the cosmos above the crust. Perhaps simple microbes move through warm currents near hydrothermal vents beneath the seafloor. Perhaps chemistry has been evolving there continuously since long before multicellular life emerged on Earth. Billions of years passing in total darkness while the hidden ocean remains silent beneath the ice. And perhaps the most terrifying possibility is not that Europa contains monsters or intelligent civilizations. It is something quieter than that. That another living world may already exist beside us in our own solar system. And it has spent 4 billion years alone beneath frozen darkness waiting for someone to finally notice it is there. There was a subtle shift after James Webb released its Europa data. Not a dramatic announcement. Not headlines claiming alien life had been discovered. Something quieter than that. A growing discomfort inside the scientific community. Because Europa was starting to look too promising. For decades, researchers could still explain away the moon's habitability with uncertainty. Maybe the ocean was too isolated. Maybe the chemistry was too poor. Maybe the surface activity had stopped long ago. But Webb slowly removed many of those doubts. Fresh carbon dioxide, concentrated salts, active chaos terrain, evidence that material from below may still reach the surface today. Piece by piece, Europa stopped looking hypothetical. And some scientists privately admitted that this realization felt emotionally strange, because for the first time, another potentially living ocean no longer seemed impossibly distant across the galaxy. It existed here, inside our own solar system, orbiting Jupiter in the dark. The unsettling part was not proof of life. There still is no proof. The unsettling part was how naturally Europa now fit the conditions scientists associate with biology. Whenever liquid water and chemical energy exist together long enough, life appears with extraordinary persistence. Tiny microbes survive inside volcanic rock, beneath Antarctic glaciers, and deep below the ocean floor. Earth keeps demonstrating the same lesson repeatedly. Biology adapts. And Europa increasingly resembles the kinds of environments where adaptation becomes possible. Tonight, somewhere beneath that frozen shell, ancient water may still circulate through hidden currents older than human civilization itself. Carbon compounds may drift upward through fractures before radiation tears them apart on the surface. The moon may still be geologically active after billions of years. And perhaps that is what truly frightened scientists. Europa no longer feels like a dead object in space. It feels like a world. Far beneath Europa's ice tonight, there may be an ocean no human being will ever see directly with their own eyes. Even future missions may only sample fragments of it indirectly through plumes or surface chemistry. The hidden sea itself may remain permanently concealed beneath kilometers of frozen crust. And strangely, That mystery is part of what makes Europa feel so haunting. Human beings have always feared dark water. Ancient sailors feared oceans because they hid things beneath the surface. Europa takes that fear and expands it to a planetary scale. An ocean larger than Earth's hidden beneath eternal darkness. No sunlight, no horizon, no air. Just pressure, chemistry, and silence extending downward for perhaps more than 100 kilometers. James Webb revealed only the faintest traces leaking upward from that world. Carbon dioxide, salts, tiny chemical fingerprints reaching the surface before radiation slowly destroys them again. But those traces were enough to change how humanity views the moon forever, because they imply the ocean below is not stagnant. It is active, moving, exchanging chemistry with the crust above. Imagine drifting through that darkness tonight beneath the ice ceiling far overhead. Somewhere below, hydrothermal vents may release heat into black water. Mineral-rich plumes may rise slowly through unseen currents. Tiny organisms, if they exist, may survive there completely unaware that another intelligent species has begun searching for them from the world above. And perhaps the most unsettling thought is this: Europa's ocean may already contain the answer to one of humanity's oldest questions, not hidden in ancient ruins or distant galaxies, but waiting silently beneath the frozen shell of a small moon orbiting Jupiter. A second ocean world beside Earth, quietly existing in darkness for billions of years, while humanity slowly learned enough science to finally realize it might be there. Even now, while Europa drifts silently around Jupiter, invisible radiation storms continue striking its surface every second. Charged particles trapped inside Jupiter's enormous magnetic field slam into the moon constantly, carrying enough energy to break apart molecules and damage exposed chemistry. The surface of Europa is one of the harshest environments in the solar system, and strangely, that may be exactly what helps make the hidden ocean below potentially habitable. Scientists believe radiation hitting the ice creates oxidants such as oxygen and hydrogen peroxide over long periods of time. Some of these chemicals may slowly migrate downward through fractures and geological recycling processes into the ocean beneath the shell. There, they could mix with reducing chemicals rising upward from hydrothermal activity on the seafloor. On Earth, life depends heavily on similar chemical imbalances. Biology feeds on energy differences. Europa may possess its own version of that system hidden beneath the ice. James Webb's observations strengthened this possibility because the telescope revealed active chemical exchange between the surface and deeper layers below us. Fresh carbon dioxide and salts suggest Europa is not sealed off from itself. The moon appears to recycle material between the ocean and surface continuously over immense temescals. Imagine that process tonight. Above the crust, Jupiter's radiation creates reactive chemistry across frozen plains. Deep below, black water touches warm rock near the seafloor. Between those extremes, the ice shell slowly transports chemicals through cracks and shifting layers. Europa may function like a giant planetary engine, quietly generating energy inside darkness. And perhaps the most unsettling part is realizing that the same radiation which makes Europa's surface deadly may also help sustain the ocean beneath it. The true reason Europa frightens scientists is not because it might contain life. It is because that life, if it exists, would represent a second genesis, a completely separate origin of biology independent from Earth. Every living organism humanity has ever studied shares the same ancestry. Trees, whales, bacteria, insects, and human beings all descend from one ancient line of life that began on Earth billions of years ago. But Europa offers a terrifying alternative possibility, another biosphere that emerged alone beneath ice around a different world. If even simple microbes exist there tonight, then life did not happen only once in the solar system. The universe repeated the process twice. And if biology emerged independently into nearby oceans around the same star, scientists would have to seriously consider the possibility that life may exist almost everywhere conditions allow it. James Webb brought humanity emotionally closer to this realization than ever before. Before Webb, Europa was mostly a distant theory. After Webb detected fresh carbon chemistry connected to active terrain, the hidden ocean began feeling real, accessible, uncomfortably plausible. Imagine what it would mean if future missions eventually discovered organic molecules, metabolic signatures, or even microscopic organisms inside material rising from Europa's ocean. Human history would divide into two eras instantly, before discovering life beyond Earth, and after. Tonight, beneath kilometers of frozen darkness orbiting Jupiter, another ancient ocean may already contain the answer. Tiny organisms drifting through black water, beneath the ice, completely unaware that another species has begun listening to their world from millions of kilometers away. And perhaps the strangest part is this. Humanity has spent centuries staring outward toward distant stars, searching for life across the galaxy. Yet the first truly alien ocean may have been hidden beside us all along beneath the frozen shell of Europa. If you could somehow stand on Europa tonight, the silence would feel unnatural. There is no atmosphere thick enough to carry sound properly across the frozen plains. No wind moving through alien landscapes. No rain. No oceans crashing against shore. Only darkness, radiation, and distant fractures stretching across endless ice beneath Jupiter's enormous glow overhead. And yet beneath that frozen silence may exist an entirely different world. Scientists believe Europa's hidden ocean is in constant motion below the crust. Warm currents may circulate slowly through black water, while tidal heating from Jupiter continues flexing the moon from within. Somewhere far below, hydrothermal vents may release heat and minerals into the darkness. Chemistry may still be flowing through that unseen sea exactly as it has for billions of years. James Webb changed how researchers emotionally imagine this environment because the telescope revealed signs that Europa is still active today. Fresh carbon dioxide should not survive long on the surface under Jupiter's radiation. Yet Webb detected it concentrated inside disrupted terrain where material from below may recently have reached the surface. Europa no longer feels frozen in time. It feels alive in a geological sense. Imagine floating beneath the ice tonight. Above you stretches kilometers of frozen crust blocking all light from the universe outside. No stars exist there. No sunrise has ever touched the water. And still the ocean moves in darkness, ancient beyond human comprehension. Perhaps simple organisms drift through warm mineral plumes beneath the seafloor, surviving in complete isolation from the cosmos above. If life exists there, it evolved without ever knowing planets or galaxies existed. And perhaps that is what makes Europa feel so haunting. It may already contain another living world hidden directly beside us, separated from humanity not by impossible interstellar distances, but only by ice-cellar distances. Someday humanity may attempt the impossible, not merely flying past Europa or scanning it with telescopes, but actually reaching the hidden ocean itself. Scientists have already proposed future concepts involving cryobots, machines designed to melt slowly downward through the ice shell before releasing robotic submarines into the water below. The engineering challenges are enormous. Europa's ice may be many kilometers thick. Radiation near the surface could damage electronics. Communication through the ice would be extraordinarily difficult. And no human technology has ever explored an alien ocean before. Yet researchers continue planning because the scientific reward may be unlike anything in human history. Imagine the first images returned from beneath Europa's crust. A dark ocean illuminated only by artificial lights from a machine descending into water, untouched for billions of years. Strange mineral formations rising from the seafloor. Clouds of chemical-rich water drifting through blackness. Perhaps nothing alive at all. Or perhaps tiny organisms moving through the currents, proving Earth is not the universe's only experiment with biology. James Webb has already brought humanity emotionally closer to that moment. Before Webb, Europa felt distant and theoretical. Now the moon feels active, chemically rich, and increasingly difficult to dismiss as sterile. The telescope may ultimately be remembered as the moment Europa stopped being just another moon and became a world humanity urgently wanted to explore. Tonight, beneath that frozen shell orbiting Jupiter, answers may already exist waiting silently in darkness. And somewhere in the future, another machine built by human hands may descend through the ice carrying with it one terrifying question. What if something down there has been waiting all along? Europa forced scientists to confront a strange possibility. The universe may not need Earth-like planets to create habitable environments. Hidden oceans beneath ice could exist almost everywhere. Before Europa, humanity imagined life developing mainly under blue skies and warm sunlight. But now researchers increasingly suspect that some of the best places for biology may actually be buried in darkness beneath frozen crusts. The solar system alone contains multiple ocean worlds. Enceladus ejects plumes of water into space from beneath its icy shell. Ganymede may hide a vast ocean beneath layers of ice and rock. Titan contains complex chemistry unlike anywhere else nearby. Suddenly, worlds once dismissed as frozen and lifeless no longer appear empty. They appear hidden. James Webb strengthened this shift dramatically because Europa's chemistry looks active right now. Fresh carbon dioxide, salts, and fractured terrain suggest ongoing exchange between the hidden ocean and the surface above. The moon is not preserving ancient frozen water like a museum relic. It is still moving, still evolving, still recycling chemistry beneath Jupiter's gravitational pull. Tonight, somewhere beneath Europa's crust, black water older than human civilization may continue flowing through unseen currents, while radiation storms rage silently overhead. And perhaps the most unsettling realization is this. If one hidden ocean in our solar system appears potentially habitable, there may be billions more scattered throughout the galaxy beneath frozen moons orbiting distant planets around other stars. Entire living worlds may exist in darkness everywhere while civilizations like ours remain unaware of them. Europa may simply be the first one humanity noticed, but there is one final possibility scientists rarely discuss openly because it feels almost too disturbing to say aloud. What if Europa's ocean once contained life, and something happened to it? James Webb confirmed fresh chemistry rising through active terrain, proving the moon is not completely frozen and inactive. Yet no direct evidence of biology has appeared, which raises uncomfortable questions. Did life never begin there despite billions of years of opportunity? Or did it begin and fail? On Earth, extinction is common. Entire ecosystems vanish. Species disappear forever. The history of life here is filled with collapse and survival balanced together. Europa's hidden ocean may have experienced its own biological history across billions of years beneath the ice. Perhaps chemistry evolved into primitive organisms long ago. Perhaps ecosystems formed around hydrothermal vents in the darkness. And perhaps something eventually changed. The terrifying thing about isolated worlds is how fragile they may become. Europa's ocean exists trapped beneath kilometers of frozen crust with no sunlight and limited energy sources. If conditions shifted even slightly over immense temescals, entire ecosystems could theoretically collapse into silence. Tonight, beneath Jupiter's cold glow, there may either be a living ocean hidden below the ice, or the ruins of once of one. An ancient sea where chemistry still circulates long after biology disappeared. And strangely, the possibility may be even sadder than finding nothing at all, because it would mean another living world once existed beside Earth in the same solar system, and vanished in darkness before humanity ever learned it was there. Even after decades of study, Europa remains mostly unknown. Humanity has mapped only the surface. The ocean itself still hides beneath kilometers of ice, untouched and unseen. And yet the moon keeps pulling scientists back toward it again and again, because every new discovery makes the mystery deeper instead of simpler. James Webb was supposed to provide chemistry. Instead, it changed the emotional meaning of Europa entirely. Fresh carbon dioxide inside active terrain suggested the ocean below is not isolated from the surface. Salts confirmed prolonged interaction between water and rock. The fractured chaos terrains implied geological movement continuing even now. Piece by piece, Europa transformed from a frozen moon into something far stranger. A hidden ocean world quietly active beneath the dark. Tonight, while Earth sleeps beneath city lights and warm skies, Europa continues orbiting Jupiter in silence. Radiation storms sweep across the surface. Deep below the ice, ancient water may still circulate through unseen currents older than human civilization itself. Somewhere beneath the crust, chemistry may continue repeating the same reactions endlessly as it has for billions of years. And perhaps that is why the moon feels so haunting to scientists. Europa does not loudly announce itself. It whispers, through cracks in the ice, through faint carbon signatures detected by infrared light, through subtle magnetic distortions hinting at a hidden sea below. The moon feels less like a place humanity discovered and more like a world slowly revealing itself one secret at a time. And every revelation leaves behind the same unsettling question. If an ocean this ancient and this chemically rich exists beside us in our own solar system, what else might already be waiting in the dark beyond it? Humanity has discovered many strange places and spaces in space. Burning planets, frozen moons, black holes swallowing night itself. But Europa may represent something different. It may become the first true alien ocean humanity ever studies closely. Not an ocean on Earth, not water trapped inside rocks or ice. An entirely separate world beneath another moon orbiting another planet. James Webb brought that possibility closer than ever before. The telescope did not find proof of life, but it found something almost as unsettling. Evidence that Europa's hidden ocean is chemically active and still communicating with the surface today. Fresh carbon dioxide. Salt. Fractured terrain. Geological movement beneath the crust. The moon increasingly resembles a living environment hidden below the ice. Imagine future generations looking back at this moment. The first time humanity truly realized another potentially habitable ocean might exist nearby. Not across impossible interstellar distances, but here inside our own cosmic neighborhood orbiting Jupiter in silence. Perhaps one day robotic submarines will descend through Europa's crust into the black water below. Perhaps they will find nothing except darkness and minerals. Or perhaps they will discover tiny organisms drifting through warm currents beneath the ice, proving the universe creates life more than once. Tonight, we do not know the answer yet. That uncertainty is part of what makes Europa so powerful. The moon exists suspended between terror and hope, between silence and possibility, between chemistry and biology. And somewhere beneath its frozen shell, hidden from sunlight for billions of years, another ocean may already be waiting for humanity to finally arrive. Right now, humanity exists in a strange moment of history. We are advanced enough to detect the chemistry of distant worlds, yet still too primitive to directly explore the oceans hidden beneath their ice. James Webb can see carbon dioxide rising through fractured terrain on Europa, from hundreds of millions of kilometers away here. But no machine has ever touched the water below. We stand at the edge of discovery without fully crossing into it. And perhaps that is why Europa feels so emotionally powerful. The moon exists in the space between certainty and mystery. Scientists now strongly believe the ocean is there. They believe the chemistry is active. They believe the ingredients for life may exist beneath the crust. Yet the final answer still hides in darkness. Tonight, somewhere below Europa's frozen plains, black water may continue moving through unseen currents exactly as it has for billions of years. Hydrothermal vents may release heat from the seafloor. Carbon compounds may drift slowly upward through fractures in the shell before radiation destroys them again at the surface. Everything may already be happening exactly as scientists fear and hope at the same time. And humanity remains outside the ice, listening carefully for clues. Imagine future historians looking back on this era. They may describe it as the final quiet period before one of the greatest discoveries in human histories. The last moment when humanity still wondered whether another living ocean existed nearby. Because once the answer comes, the universe will never feel the same again. If Europa is alive, then biology is not unique to Earth. Life will become something the cosmos naturally does whenever conditions allow it. And if Europa is empty despite billions of years of opportunity, then Earth may be unimaginably rare. Either answer changes humanity forever, which means somewhere tonight beneath Jupiter's distant glow, hidden below kilometers of frozen darkness, Europa may already contain one of the most important truths our species will ever learn. And now, as our journey slowly comes to an end tonight, Europa still remains out there beyond the warmth of Earth. A small frozen moon drifting endlessly around Jupiter beneath silent radiation storms and black cosmic skies. From a distance, it looks cold and lifeless. But James Webb revealed something hidden beneath that appearance. Fresh chemistry, active terrain, signs that the ocean below may still be moving, breathing, exchanging material with the frozen world above. Somewhere beneath kilometers of ancient ice may exist an ocean larger than all Earth's seas combined, an ocean that has never seen sunlight, an ocean possibly older than most life on our planet. Then perhaps in that darkness, chemistry has already crossed the invisible boundary into biology. Tiny organisms may drift tonight through black water, near warm hydrothermal vents beneath Europa's seafloor, completely unaware that another species far above has begun searching for them across the void. Or perhaps the ocean remains silent and empty, carrying only ancient water and minerals through endless currents beneath the crust. We do not know yet. That uncertainty is what makes Europa feel so haunting. It reminds humanity how little we truly understand about life and the universe around us. For centuries, people looked toward the stars believing alien worlds must exist impossibly far away. But Europa suggests something stranger. Another habitable ocean may have been beside us all along, hidden beneath ice in our own solar system. And tonight, while Earth grows quiet and sleep slowly arrives, that ancient ocean still circles Jupiter in darkness, waiting patiently beneath its frozen shell, waiting for the day humanity finally reaches the ice and looks beneath it for the first time.